Had to get a little break from all the rain. It's been really pretty sloppy lately, so good choice coming today. Anybody been here before? No? All right, me either. My first time too. I paid them extra so I could show you around here. Not sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to spend about 3 hours together. We're going to split it up into 2 parts. So first I'll walk you around here and introduce you to some of the animals around here. By the way, we all have wristbands on today, is that right? With that, that's kind of your ticket to...
Ours came off. We have to go to the office and grab one.
Okay, well that's all right. But you're with him, and yeah, that's okay. Maybe or a little bit later you might want to get it. The point that I'm making is, with the wristband on, you're free to stick around all day if you're in Africa that are similar to Sonoma County, believe it or not. But these guys, these are ring-tailed lemurs, as I said. Lemurs are very special animals. Lemurs are primates. Here at Safari West, we have 3 kinds of primates. We have 3 species of lemur, and we have 3 species of monkey, and we also have tour guides. And you all. We are all primates as well. We are Homo sapiens. So we're actually distantly related to these guys. In fact, sometimes I call this your monkey's uncle. And I'll explain why. So the lemurs are a special animal, as I said. The story with lemurs is that after the age of the dinosaurs, when mammals started to become more preponderant on the earth, particularly in Africa, some of the early mammals were the first of the primates. These would be the ancestors to all the other primates. Sometimes we call them basal primates. Now, over time, as evolution took place, there were more higher order or complex primates. These would be the monkeys, later the apes, eventually human beings. And so when the monkeys came along, they were clever animals, and they basically outcompeted these basal primates for their habitat, that's where they live, and their resources. Mostly that would be the food that they eat. So most of these animals went extinct. But some of these animals, fortunately, somehow made their way over to the large island of Madagascar off the southeast coast of Africa. And when they got there, they had the place kind of to themselves. There were no monkeys anyway there. So they said, hey, look at this. We've got this great big island with lots of different habitats. And Madagascar has mountains, deserts, rainforests, savannas, river areas, lots of different places where they could live. So some of them would find one place. They said, well, I like the weather here, and I like what they have to eat here. I think I'll just stay here. So their cousin said, okay, well, I don't want to be crowded, and I don't want to crowd you guys. She's pretty darn cute. But I think all of our animals are beautiful, just in their own way, just like you all are beautiful and lovely in your own way. So this is called a fennec fox.
A fennec?
Fennec, F-E-N-N-E-C, fennec fox. The fennec fox is the smallest member of the canid family, so they're distantly related to dogs and wolves. So, but it's the smallest canine in the wild. Now, I've seen smaller canines, just little poodles and things. Ladies stuck in a purse. I don't know what those are, but they're not wild. But they are a desert animal. They're mostly nocturnal, actually. So she's actually not often real active in the daytime. And they are a burrowing animal too. They spend a lot of time underground. They live in the Sahara Desert. Everyone's taking me up on it. I don't understand why. They're fun. Anyway, they're pretty neat animals. Beautiful markings on them. Now, monkeys are intelligent animals. You know, they're going to be more like us. And like I was saying, you can kind of see their face looks a little bit more like us than a lemur does. They live in central Africa. Many of them live in kind of a rainforest area where they have kind of an oil on their coat that kind of helps them keep dry in a rainy environment, sort of like a natural vortex. Now, animals, I start to say, are intelligent. The monkeys are intelligent animals, so our keepers are very good. If you come by here day after day, their environment, they change their surroundings every day, pretty much. So it keeps them curious and involved in their environment and their life. So they'll come out and go, oh, look at that, what's here today? You know, maybe something that makes noise or something reflective or little balls they can play with. Or they'll give them little puzzles like this. They have little rings, and they know if they can go in and figure out how to lift the ring, they might have a little treat inside. So it keeps their minds curious and active. It keeps them involved. Beautiful animals, beautiful cats. They're large cats, but they're not what we call the big cats. The big cats are in the genus Panthera, the panthers of the world. In Africa, the big cats are lions and leopards. Cheetah, well, it depends. You know, in captivity, like parents tend to live longer than they do because they're well cared for and fed and things like this. They used to say that in the wild, a cheetah can expect to live to be about 10 or 12 years. These days, they're thinking it's a little bit longer than that. Our Sahara is 12, going on 13 right now. Her mother died when she was 16. So a cheetah's lifespan is pretty similar to a house cat. You know, now I had a house cat that's 23 years old, so that's pretty unusual. You know, cousins, the caracals, are sometimes called the African jumping cats. They can jump straight up in the air about 8 to 10 feet from what I hear. So of course, cats like chicken, they like fish. Meowing, meow, meow. So if a bird's flying overhead, they can jump straight up, snag a bird right out of the air in mid-flight if they want. And I also understand that they also like fish. So if they're by a body of water that they know there are fish in there, they're not afraid to jump in and go fishing. And they have fish hooks built into their feet called claws. So they're really good at snagging a fish out of the water too. So they're not afraid to go swimming and catch fish too. Beautiful animals. The serval, sometimes some people would really love to have one at home, and it's against the law to have a wild animal if you're not accredited like we are. So some people have been known to take a serval and breed them with a domestic house cat. So they have a hybrid offspring. It's called a Savannah cat. So some people, in order to have a little touch of the wild, might buy a Savannah cat. I have a feeling they're probably expensive. And then you have a big cat that's a little bit wild too. So that is really the wild distribution of this food. Now this feathers have some polka dots. There's a few types of guinea fowl. The guinea fowl are in the Gallinidae family, like related to chickens. A couple more of them over here. Often walk on grass or marshy areas. And those little white-faced birds over there are ducks. What kind of sound do ducks make? Ah, really? Well, those would say, well, that's all well and good, but we beg to differ. We don't quack. We whistle. Those are whistling ducks, white-faced whistling ducks. You might hear African birds, and they're the ones who build these big nests here. Speaking of nests, there's a ibis up there. I'll tell you a bit more about ibis.
I think it is just American.
Swamping in there, you can see their long toes. And then there's a grayish blue bird there with a pretty fancy little headdress there. It's called a blue-crowned pigeon. A little different than the pigeons we're used to looking at. But also these other birds that have the iridescent green and blue feathers, there's another kind of pigeon. Those are called Nicobar pigeons. Now we can see here that birds have all different shaped beaks that helps them to adapt to different habitats and things that they eat. It's actually the shape of birds' beaks that inspired Charles Darwin to write On the Origin of Species. Because when he was in the Galapagos Islands, he saw all these different birds with different shaped beaks so they could eat different types of food so they don't compete with each other on a small island. But he realized that at one time there was all one bird. It was a finch. But over time, like with the lemurs, they evolved into different types of habitats, so their beaks changed. So he realized this is how they got new species, similar to what I was talking about with the lemurs. So the shape of birds' beaks is important in the story of natural history, of our discovery of natural history. So here we have an unusual beak. Here these are called spoonbills. So they use their long bill to kind of stir up mud, and they can feel and taste with that thing to see if there's anything good to eat. But we also have a lot of other birds that have long downward curving bills. Those are all called ibis. We have 3 species of ibis. The black and white birds are called sacred ibis. They were sacred to the ancient Egyptians. There was a god named Thoth. The ancient Egyptians had hieroglyphics, body of a man, head of an ibis. This was the god Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, mathematics, and astronomy, probably the Albert Einstein of his day. So they were sacred to them. But then we also noticed that there's a lot of them. There's one over there that's brightly colored. That is a scarlet ibis, and that is an American bird. They come from the Caribbean. Bernie Sanders' hairdo there is called a demoiselle crane. One of my favorite animals here. The demoiselle crane. Demoiselle is French, referring to a lovely young lady. I understand it was a name by Marie Antoinette, of all things. The demoiselle crane, many of them live in Mongolia and in China, and then when the weather changes and it gets cold, they fly into India and Pakistan to overwinter and feed there. So if you know your geography, it means that these birds fly over the Himalaya mountain range, the highest mountains in the world. Is the second highest flying bird in the world. They fly at airline altitude, that's 25,000 feet. Now here's another spoonbill that has pink feathers. It's called a roseate spoonbill. And again, that is an American bird, and they can be found in Florida just like the flamingos. By the way, American birds like the scarlet ibis and the roseate spoonbill and the pink, so-called pink flamingos, or Caribbean flamingos, are not born that color. They get that color over time from a pigment in the food that they eat, which is called beta-carotene, which is what makes carrots orange. It's like us, if you eat too many carrots, your skin turns orange. The same thing with them. It's an important nutrient for us. We turn it into vitamin A in our livers, but they get it from what's in the food that they eat. For some odd reason, it seems like that happens more with the American birds than it does with the old birds.
Hey, don't touch me.
She likes to walk with us. She's been, I understand, a little frisky lately. So, hi, Kobe. Are you going to good girl, or are you going to peck us? Are you going to good girl today? Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Well, she's my girlfriend. She's a special bird. She's a special bird. Yep. Yeah, she wants to peck. So, what's wrong with you lately? You're frisky. India?
She knows.
All right, let's just walk around her.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's getting into this peck thing. You hear that? That noise comes from those white storks, also called European storks. So those are those big white birds with long pointed bills, and they don't really have a call. So they communicate with each other by physical posturing, by flapping their bills and throwing their head back. These birds are known to build large nests on people's houses and church peoples and things, fly away, bring back baby chicks 9 months later. So that's the bird that made the legend of storks being babies. The darker, smaller ones with the pointed bill is also the stork called an Afghan or white-bellied stork, and also an African stork. By the way, the dark-colored bird with the long pointed bill, downward curving bill, is our third species of ibis. That's the Waldrop ibis, and they come from around Morocco, north and northwestern. These two here. These birds were on the endangered species list until recently, as probably thanks to breeding efforts like us and some other agencies. They've just recently come off the endangered species list, which is really an encouraging conservation story, success story. Okay, well let's wrap it up and let's go for a drive. You want to do that?
Yeah.
All right.